Welcome, friends.
Hello, friends.
We're glad you could join us once again, and we want to thank you all for your comments, your kind words this last
Yes.
week. We really appreciated hearing from you.
It's always so much fun to see your comments and to know that people are actually watching and listening and interacting. That's the main thing. We really started this to connect with people. And so it's absolutely wonderful to hear your comments about, what kind of bird you would be if you could be a bird. I love those.
Oh, they were also wonderful. The comments were
Thoughtful.
great. Very much so. This week, the daffodils have been out blooming.
Amazing.
And your helleborus are blooming beautifully yet.
So pretty, yes. I love the early spring flowers. They are just so cheerful.
This is definitely early spring, and it just feels like it is here to stay, even though we get one day here and there. That just believe that, it is early March yet, too. That's what they're saying.
March in like a lion and out like a lamb, right?
Yes. Well, have you started in spring cleaning?
I have started spring cleaning.
How many of you spring clean?
Do you spring clean?
Or is just cleaning year round?
Well, we all have to clean year round, unfortunately, right?
But sometimes it's got to dig deeper.
I think when the season turns, and especially when the sun really starts to shine and get more intense, for me, the energy level just increases, and I just feel this compulsion to really clear out the unnecessary stuff and really take it down to what do I love and what am I willing to take really good care of. And I think that those are really good indicators that that's something that should stay in my home. Otherwise, I'm going to repurpose it or send it off with one of my kids or something else.
And then you get into the corners and clean.
For sure. And I love the hypochlorous. I know I've talked about this before, but I care for individuals with severe developmental disabilities. My husband and I do. The two ladies that we care for have been with us for 23 years. And so we had looked for years and years. I had looked for years and years for a non-toxic deodorizer and sanitizer to use in our home because we needed to deal with, issues and smells and all of the cleaning things. And so it took a long time for me to find something that I really liked. Over the pandemic, I think I mentioned this, I found a hypochlorous. I discovered hypochlorous, but the way that I needed to make it, it degraded in 2 weeks. And so I just remade it every 2 weeks. It was great. I loved it. But now we've found a wonderful way to do hypochlorous in a way that it does not degrade, or it degrades less than 10% over a period of a whole year. And so, and not like a bottle would last a whole year, because I use this every single day. Hypochlorous is something that most people aren't familiar with. We call it our Good Earth sanitizer and deodorizer, but hypochlorous acid, it's also called electrolyzed water, and it's made with, our own body actually makes hypochlorous acid. It's created by our white blood cells to act as a natural defense against pathogens. And so it's not toxic for our body. It's actually pH balanced, about the same pH as our skin is. And so it's very gentle to use on things like infections. So we can actually use it on our skin. And I have used it for infections. Not only is it made by the human body, but it also can be synthesized with a precise formula of salt, water, vinegar, and electricity. And it's a broad spectrum disinfectant. It's actually hospital grade disinfectant. It safely eliminates almost 100%, 99.99% of pathogens. And that includes mold, mildew, fungus, bacteria, COVID and other viruses, MRSA, and more. It is more than 80 times more powerful and more effective than bleach. It's USDA and EPA approved. It's been approved for use in dentist offices, schools, hospitals. Non-toxic, non-hazardous, natural, organic. It's almost too good to be true. And so it's why I use it every day. I use it on our toothbrushes to clean. I use it since the ladies have, accidents in bed, and we spray this on the bed. It's stable, and when it does degrade, it actually becomes a saline solution. So it's not bad for the planet. It's safe for people, pets, and the planet. And so, like when I clean out the pet water bowl, what water bowls get kind of yucky with pets. And so every time I dump it out, I spray it with hypochlorous. I wipe it down with paper towel, rinse it out, and there they have a clean drinking water again. So I had one of my kids came over, and they'd gotten new piercings, and he said, I need to get this thing that they told me to get at the store. I said, here you go, hypochlorous. Put this on your piercing because it will help prevent infection, and it's much safer and less toxic than anything else that they're telling you to put on it. So we love love our Good Earth sanitizer so far. It's a spring cleaning necessity.
Available here.
Yes, available here at the shop if you're
Mhm.
local. And if you're not local, you can go ahead and get it online at goodearthsanitizer.com. You can actually get your own machine to make it at goodearthsanitizer.com. So if you'd like to do that, that's where you go.
And you can bring in your old bottle and have it refilled.
Yes, if you're local, once you purchase it from us, you just keep bringing in your bottle and we'll keep refilling it for you for very low cost refills.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's a good thing to have.
It's fantastic to have.
Yeah.
I couldn't, I mean, I don't know how I survived without it because before that, I was trying to use either alcohol or bleach, which, I tried not to use bleach very much, or hydrogen peroxide. And none of those are really terribly effective or smell good or safe to use on, for long term. And you certainly don't want to mix them. This is just great.
Well, the ones we buy at the store have
a lot of times chemical fragrance.
Exactly.
Which is so toxic for us to breathe.
Yes.
Yeah.
They kind of give you a high.
Well,
actually, when you use them.
Yeah, it's not
good.
Yeah, for most people, if you ask them what the most toxic things in their household are, they're going to think about, probably something in the garage. But for most households, the most toxic things you have in your house are your cleaners.
Under the sink.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we teach in our home herbalist apprenticeship program in March is how to replace all of those, cleaners with very simple things that you can use that are very effective, including this.
And I use it on doorknobs.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll put it into my sacks. I take to the grocery store, clean those out good, and then I spray them really good, too. It's really important to keep ourselves safe, and that's one way to do it, I believe.
Kitchen counters, bathroom surfaces, or the water purifier, the humidifier, the litter box, all kinds of things.
Toothbrushes.
Oh, I use, I definitely at least weekly spray our toothbrushes with
Which
it.
is an interesting one to think about doing, but why not?
Super important.
It really is. Last week, I talked about making an envelope out of paper, and there was lots of comments on it. People were coming into the shop and saying they enjoyed that idea, and it was a very simple thing to do. Just deconstruct an old envelope that you have at home, and you have a pattern to make a new one out of pretty magazine paper and so on. Colored paper. You can see it on our last week's.
Yes.
I showed a very pretty one made by a friend. Well, this is also one made by a friend, and this is a cloth envelope. Now, a cloth envelope can be used for lots of things. A small sewing project, possibly. You stick it in here, and then all you have to do is roll it all up and tie it shut, throw it in your purse.
I love it.
And you always have it with you, and then you have it to work on whenever you have a chance to do it. Maybe sit in the car. Waiting for somebody.
Sure. An easy way to sew your own tarot pouch, too. If you have a tarot deck that you want to protect, that's a great way to make a simple tarot bag.
Yes. And another thing we do in Sewing Circle is if someone has read a book that they really like and they want to tell others about it or pass it around to other people, we just lay it in the middle of the table, and anybody else that wants to borrow the book can borrow the book, which is an excellent thing to do. It saves in the landfill. And all the libraries and such have extra books all the time where they, sell them and such. But that works really good. Love
the library book sale.
Yes. Now I have a question this week for all of you. How do you like to read your books? Do you like to read it in your hand? Are you a very tactile person like I am?
Me too.
Or do you do it on
an e-reader?
An e-reader.
A lot of people like the e-readers.
Oh, they swear by them. And I think my son says, Mom, you really ought to get, a Kindle or whatever.
He's a pilot. He travels. If I travel a lot, I would definitely use my e-reader because you don't have to lug heavy books. But if you're sitting in the living room,
that's probably true.
Open a book.
I do too. It just feels good to open that book and have a special bookmark. And I have one made by a friend, and I stick into it. So, yes, absolutely. That's what I like to read. Well, anyway, there is a study out, and I want to share with you, and I'll have to read this. It makes one stop and think, I believe, on how we read our book. Anyway, this comes as no surprise that there are perks to reading printed pages instead of plasma screens. The University of Norway researcher Anne Magnan determined that people retain plot elements better when they read in print than on an e-reader.
Interesting.
The San Jose State University researchers found that screen reading encourages browsing and scanning rather than the deep reading associated with printed pages. He says we need to understand the value of what we may be losing when we skim text so rapidly that we skip the precious millisecond of deep reading. And that's from the Tufts University Center for Reading and Language Research. They also say, for it is within these moments and these processes in our brain that we might reach our own important insights and breakthroughs. They might not happen if we've skipped on to the next text bite.
Oh, I found that to be very true too. I find myself, even with printed page, scanning a lot more now instead of reading deeply. And I can think of books that in my past have, what did it say? Breakthroughs and insights, and that, so thinking about books that have caused insights or breakthroughs or those aha epiphany moments.
Do you ever stop and just write something down then and
note? Oh, yeah. I do too. For sure.
And I think that's one of the things that we probably will do instead of the skimming over.
Yeah, that's really interesting that reading a tactile book can do that more. What are some books that have caused you to have deep insights or breakthroughs in your past, or have been transformative for you? I'll think of a couple too and list them in the comments below. I'd be interested to hear some of yours too.
And I'd like to know how many of you really do prefer to read it in book in hand instead of the other way, or do you prefer the other way?
Right. And why? Yeah, why?
And that, it's all okay. There's no wrong.
Absolutely. Right? It's just reading. Just reading is an amazing thing because a lot of people, there's these studies out too that talk about how most people don't read a book after they leave schooling, which is, former English teacher here. I love books and reading and literature, and I think that's so sad. And I think that's kind of a reflection a little bit on our educational system where, we tend to, have this canon of books that the system thinks is important for kids to read. There are so many other important books outside of that canon. And I think when I was an English teacher, I tried to give the kids as much choice as possible. I think it's probably a lot more possible to give them choices now, but, it's an interesting thing to think about.
Reading is always important, I do believe, because we gain knowledge from that. We can travel through, a book.
Oh, yeah. It's the original virtual reality.
Absolutely.
Right?
You can even time travel.
Exactly. Exactly.
There is so much fun to reading. It takes me away and transports me to another place sometimes in the middle of winter, especially the middle of winter. I read so much more in the winter than I do, of course, this time of the year when we're starting to prepare to be outside a little bit more and such. Yeah. But it's good to continue reading all of our life as long as we possibly can.
For sure.
Well, I want to mention a little bit about the ban that our town put into effect this week.
Right.
And our town of Lawrence is pretty, forward-thinking in the way that they step up when need be. And I think we all have to start someplace. And so this week, the banning took place of the single-use plastic bags. Well, there is a little bit of controversy around that because what they're really talking about is the one-use plastic bags used in the grocery stores.
Right.
That we sometimes get. And, I find them out here up in the top of my trees.
Oh, yeah.
They have blown in from who knows where. And I get a little unhappy about that. So I'm okay with this ban.
Oh, yeah.
But the controversy comes from, what about the baggies and the things like that we are using daily too? Well, we have to start someplace.
That's right.
Let's just start here.
Controversy is you didn't go far enough.
And we'll go from there at another time.
Got it. Yeah, for sure. I think that's a great place to begin.
Yes, I think it is too. So now we all have to remember, and I always have, I take it into other stores, even to my own bags.
Yes.
I just prefer doing that. I don't want their bags. Some of that is advertising for them as well as one use.
Trash for landfill, and even recycling isn't a great use of resources. If we can avoid having it in the first place, that's better yet.
It certainly is. So anyway, that's our news in our neck of the woods around here. I'd like to close with this thought. Time to read the March chapter in the book. And this says, the elders have spoken. This is a Native American saying. The elders have spoken. Just as we use the land to heal ourselves, we must in return heal the land. So with that, we'll plan to see you next week.
Good earth blessings to you.